A fulcrum is the pivot point in our hand where the stick moves up and down. There's a lot of opinions on fulcrums out there, especially about which one is best or which one you should use. But I argue that you should use them all because they all have their place in achieving whatever we want to play. I'm going to walk you through back, middle, and front fulcrum, how to develop each one, talk about how they all work together, and where we might want to use them separately from each other. Before we talk about fulcrums, we should break down our approach for how we hold the stick. Nothing we're about to do will be possible without proper technique. First, we're going to grab the stick with our index finger and our thumb directly across from each other using the pad of our thumb. So from here, we don't want our thumb to be too high, too low, falling off the stick, or anything other than right across from our index finger, because our thumb is the control and our guide through different stroke types. I usually have my index finger relaxed off the stick because I don't use it that much, but either way you do it is the same. So I probably already have people disagreeing with me right now, and that's fine, but stick with me and you'll see why we're doing this. So this is set up on the bounce point of the stick, which is the part of the stick that bounces the most due to the weight distribution. From here, we wrap the rest of our fingers around the stick, and we want to keep them on the stick at all times. The wood of the stick resonating is a big part of a good open sound. So the most important thing here is that we never squeeze the stick or add pressure anywhere that we don't need. Everything is achievable with relaxed hands. So as I'm shifting through different fulcrums, my thumb is staying in the same spot, whether I'm using back fulcrum, middle, or front fulcrum. I know that we don't need to have our thumb on the stick for back fulcrum, but having it there helps us with control, and moving our thumb around while we're playing is kind of a waste of motion. If you have a drum teacher who tells you something different than what I'm saying, that's fine. I'm not saying they're wrong, but this is my approach and it makes the most sense to me in effectiveness and ergonomics, and I highly recommend it. If you want to learn more about this approach, check out my technique video. So the way I think about fulcrums is kind of like shifting gears. Back fulcrum is the strongest, clearest fulcrum that I will use whenever I can. Front fulcrum is the weakest, least powerful fulcrum that is perfect for fast intricacies. And middle fulcrum is kind of a best of both worlds approach where you can achieve almost anything with relaxed hands. So let's start with the lowest gear, the back fulcrum. Back fulcrum uses our back two fingers in our hand, like the ring finger and the pinky. This is the closest fulcrum to our input, which is our wrist movement. After a while, you can get pretty fast using back fulcrum, but to me, the main use is power and reliability. Anytime I can achieve something with back fulcrum, I do it. One of the positives of back fulcrum is the control. With relaxed hands, I can achieve diddles and threes and anything else on any surface, even if that surface doesn't have any rebound, like a deep floor tom. So the best way to practice our back fulcrum is using crab claws. So we just want to take our thumb and index finger off the stick and relax them, even though I just told you how important it is to have them on the stick. But we don't really want to play like this, it's just to feel where the stroke is coming from. Something you should feel for while you're doing this is the stick vibrating in your hand. If you don't feel it vibrating in your hand, you're probably squeezing it down too much. Remember, don't get in the way of the stick, follow its natural rebound. Moving on, so middle fulcrum puts the emphasis on the middle finger and the thumb. So now, holding the stick the same way as before, the pivot point is between our thumb and our middle finger. I recommend relaxing your index finger off the stick a little bit while using middle fulcrum, but don't take it all the way off the stick because we still want it to be there. My pinky isn't really invited to the party, but we'll just keep it on the stick anyway. I can do all of my wrist, finger, and bouncy strokes from here. So same idea as before, let's just play some strokes to really feel where it's coming from. Try relaxing your index finger off the stick a little bit, keep your thumb on it, and try to feel the sticks vibrating. In middle fulcrum, we can allow our hand to open up a little bit more than we could with back fulcrum. Alright, so front fulcrum. So front fulcrum is what everybody knows, because that's like what everybody learns first. The pivot point is right here, between our thumb and our index finger. And this fulcrum is mostly useful for really fast finger strokes because our middle finger can do most of the heavy lifting. My problem with using front fulcrum exclusively, it's a lot easier for people to start squeezing the stick right here at the front without realizing it, which is something we never want to do. So I only really use it when absolutely necessary. Let's practice it the same way we did with the other two, realizing that our hand can open up even more than it could with our middle finger fulcrum. So now that you know what it feels like in your hand for each different fulcrum, let's start developing them independently and together. We're going to use an easy, versatile exercise called Hugga-Dugga-Burr. The stock version we'll use is 2 beats of alternating eighth notes, 2 beats of diddle 16th notes, and then we repeat. Then we do a whole measure of alternating eighth notes, whole measure of diddle 16th notes. You can get this exercise for free on my website in the link in the description. So first, at a slower tempo, let's practice using all of the different fulcrums. Even though we wouldn't use like our front fulcrum at a slow tempo, if we practice our fast techniques slowly, we can develop the muscle memory for them much more quickly. So right now I'm at 85 BPM. We'll go through it once with back fulcrum, once with middle finger fulcrum, and once with front fulcrum. Now middle. Now I'll use front fulcrum. So we want to use all these fulcrums over and over again at slow tempos so we can really understand and develop muscle memory for the mechanics of them in our hands. So as you move up the spectrum of tempos, where you change gears is kind of subjective. It'll probably be at a different point than I do in this video. Where you change depends on where things start to not feel possible or comfortable. There's also a gray area in between each fulcrum where you can kind of use a blend of them. Stay relaxed in your hands and just feel for what you need to do. So where we use each fulcrum separately really has to do with the speed that we're trying to play. The faster we have to play, we shift up in gears, but you don't want to just be sitting in a high gear when you don't need to. So even though I might use my front fulcrum at faster tempos, depending on what I'm playing, I'm not going to use it the whole time. The best way to get used to this is with a lot of intentional practice. Start slow, repeat over and over again until everything feels perfect, then bump the tempo up 5 or 10 clicks and repeat. We're trying to develop muscle memory so that we can play what we're thinking instead of thinking about what we're playing. Well, if you enjoyed this video, give me a subscribe, a like, leave a comment, hit the bell icon because I got new videos coming out every week. Check the description for a link to my website for lessons. There's also a link to my Instagram down there where there's a lot of fun stuff going on, and there's a link to my music, which is available on all platforms. All right, see ya.